This channel is kind of episodic, meaning you can't just watch one video as a standalone video and really understand what I'm talking about. You kind of have to follow it like a series, and I started from the beginning on this channel talking about the basic ideas of Chosen One, and then with each video I build on to that. I add practical suggestions. I add a new idea to help tie things in together. It's all very episodic. So yeah, you have to watch my previous videos to get where I'm going with this. But one great video that I uploaded pretty early on in this channel, and damn, we're almost at the 1 year anniversary of this channel, is Chosen Ones. Does God want you to be happy? And this really illustrates, and back then I was talking according to astrological insight, but I was encoding it such that it wouldn't be seen as astrological. But once again, understanding astrology is like understanding the divine and understanding God's will. Those are the hands of God. So if you understand astrology, if you understand the planets, then you really have a high level of understanding of the substructure of how the things in the world works and the context in which they're working together, and to what end are they working together. But this video, Chosen Ones, Does God Want You to Be Happy, basically is almost like a Saturnine parable. Once again, if you haven't watched my last video, being the demonic puppets of God, Saturn is responsible for decay and loss and bringing unwanted things, ugly things, odious things. It's related to the shadow. Saturn rules lead. Lead is the base, worthless metal, and it is, whereas the sun is related to great riches and kingship, Saturn is related to peasants and poverty. Well, in this video, Does God Want You to Be Happy? This is from some Judaic, daily Judaic wisdom YouTube channel from like 10 years ago. This lady, who's an excellent talker, excellent public speaker, a great storyteller, talks about story of two students of Judaism who are perplexed by a particular passage, and they seek out, and they ask their teacher what the meaning of the passage is, and the teacher can't help them. So the teacher redirects them far off to a faraway land where a great Judaic Hebrew master could educate them. And then they come up to where, they travel all this way across these harsh climates to get to this guy, and they come up on a dilapidated hovel, a really unkempt, barely held together sort of dwelling house. And yeah, this Hebrew master is living in great poverty. The door is being held by like a string, she says, and there's no chairs, there's just pieces of straw. She's living in abject poverty, but this Hebrew master just greets these two students just like beaming bright with like the utmost joy and positivity, and they're perplexed. They're thinking that this guy is crazy, and I can't remember the original passage that they were asking about, but it had to do with, I believe it has something to do with to thank God for the challenges, for the unpleasant things. I probably should have watched this before I made this recording, but let me see. Okay, I don't have time to watch the whole video, but yeah, basically to thank God for the good things that happen and the bad things that happen. And then they bring it up to this Hebrew master. He's walking around, pacing, stroking his beard. He's like, I can't help you. And they're like, what the fuck? We just traveled like hundreds of miles to come find you. You got to give us something. And then he says, I can't help you because I've never had anything bad ever happen to me. Right, so here's a guy who's living in abject poverty, just in this dilapidated, falling apart hovel. And he says, nothing bad has ever happened to me. And that's a beautiful, amazing story about how you have the ability to find joy within, to the point that all of your external circumstances are irrelevant. That is why Saturn, although it's related to all things ugly and odious and reeking and unwanted, and even related to like demonic activity, right? Saturn controls demons and regulates how they will make their appearances. That's the hand of God that dictates when a demon will attack, right? So when in the Bible, the book of Job, when one of the Satans, one of the adversarial angels, claimed that Job was only a follower of God because he was so blessed by God and had all these good things, God has to give permission to this adversary angel, this Satan, to go down and mess with Job majorly. But that's the important part, is has to ask for permission. The permission that is granted there is ultimately related to Saturn, right? Without Saturn, demons can do whatever they want, and they can just destroy fucking everything, and they can ruin everything willy-nilly, and God has no power to stop it. But because Saturn exists, every action a demon takes is according to God's will, right? Every demon, every Satan, every adversarial spirit needs to ask permission from God before they can do anything. So Saturn allocates when our shadows will appear in our lives. And ultimately, all of these things are terrible things, have the power to instill in us a inborn, inward indifference to external things. And that indifference to external things is really, really important, because that's related to how to stop reincarnating. And this is something to really understand, is the deepest nature of what demonic shit is the world, and let's say the earth, and the deepest sense in which the divine is the non-dual light that is in heaven. So anything that binds us to the world is the ultimate marriage with the demonic, and the demonic is torturous, therefore the world is torturous. This is absolutely true. You say, oh no, I've known people born into this world that have had a great life. But that's the point. It's a cycle that spirals you into greater torment, greater separation from divinity, greater separation from joy. I can't remember the name of this rabbi in this video. Got a cute name like Bushka or some.
Music and a good glass of whatever it is, or 4 glasses.
I love this video.
It doesn't look like a party, but pursuing things that matter.
Dude, bars.
The satisfaction of putting effort. Right? Because you know why? If we view our lives in
All right, don't have time. Yeah, these people would be investing in solar things, and that's reflected in their reincarnations, as they may be born into desirable circumstances, high circumstances, fame, and endless opportunities for love and being endlessly appreciated, receiving gifts from everybody, receiving great support from the world. But this is why the sun is fool's gold. The sun rules gold, but it's fool's gold. If you understand that, you're really deep into understanding alchemy. And the point is, you can't have a light without casting a shadow. You can't have the sun without Saturn. You just can't. Because the cycle is going to continue, right? We have Leo, ruled by the sun. If we put a planet there and we leave it there, what's it going to do? It's going to drift from sign to sign until it reaches Aquarius, ruled by Saturn. You can't just stay in this summer of the soul. You can't just look at one person's lifetime and say they have such great circumstances. Like, yeah, but not forever. That's just one lifetime. You have so many lifetimes. Eventually it drifts back to the Saturnian. And how an individual deals with the Saturnian is based off of polarity. Polarity is dictated by Pluto. Pluto arranges ultimatums as to what direction a person's going to evolve into. So that's either evolution or involution. As like the featured video on my channel dictates. That's an ascending soul or a descending soul. For a descending soul, a person's interactions with Saturn, in their lifetimes where it's not solar, where everything's burned to ruin, Mars burns things away and then reduces it to coal, reduces it to ash, just worthless, meaningless ashes. That's when you have a lifetime of extreme strife and challenge and loss and poverty and no romantic relationships. It's just everything is just ripped away from you. What do you expect? You're gonna have lifetimes where everything is given to you and you're being tested for what you do with it. And then you're gonna have other lifetimes where you have nothing and then you're tested with how you deal with that situation. But the mistake these people make is I want to cling to the great and the glorious and desirable and the beautiful of the sun. But yeah, it's fool's gold because you can't cling to it. You can try, but it's not gonna work because the cycle progresses onward. Why? Because at the center of any natal chart, here's a big secret, at the center of any natal chart is Pluto, regardless of where Pluto is in a natal chart, because Pluto dictates evolution, right? Pluto, I would say, is responsible for magnetically drawing one through the process of evolution. Ultimately, there is a deeper sphere of the heavens that's responsible for all this motion. It's called the primum mobile. But ultimately, this progression through all of these different stages, the highs and the lows, and all of their different, shades and colors and everything that comes with the story of life, is ultimately controlled by Pluto, dictating that polarity. So yeah, because Pluto exists, you cannot stay in one place. The Earth is what causes something to stay stagnant, and it's counter-evolutionary. The Earth is, right? So what happens is people willingly come down to descend through the various levels of the heavens and degrade and get worse. They are confronted with the Saturnine. They're confronted with their shadows. They're confronted with demons. And they let that sully them so that they can get worse. That's the polarity dictated by a descending soul. When consciousness comes from source, talks to Pluto. Pluto says, "Here's your descending soul card. Have fun on the ride." And then it gets worse and worse and worse. And as it's getting worse, it's like, wow, I'm generating a lot of bad samskaras. I'm generating a lot of bad images, impressions, intentions, and it's creating bad karma. And that's being reflected in my psychological state. So I need to become a more simple, more stagnant form of being with less evolutionary potential. Right? Human beings are extraordinarily evolutionary. You maybe wouldn't think so according to our physiology, which is typically one of the main facets of how we consider evolution. But there are so many other ways in which we evolve. We evolve at the level of our technologies. We evolve at the level of our thoughts. We evolve at the level of how we react to things emotionally, psychologically. And human beings are in a state of constant, extremely high-paced, either evolution or involution, right? We're either getting like really better really quick due to how powerful and how expansive our consciousness is and how penetrating our consciousness is, or we're getting really worse really fast. And that slows down a lot as we give ourselves over to the earth to become a more simple being that's immersed into our six senses, aka an animal. Animals are not extremely evolutionary. Where they are evolutionary, it's typically in a meaningless way, which is the physiological characteristics that allow one to propagate, which is ultimately pretty meaningless because it's like, what do you mean? That's survival of the fittest. That's how you survive. It's like, well, you don't have any choice but to survive, meaning you'll die and then your consciousness is still there. So dying was never even a possibility. So Saturn really is the answer, and it really is the cancer. Saturn is everything that makes a chosen one's life a pain in the ass. It's Saturn that sends all of these demons to attack you, right? It's Saturn in the book of Job that says, yes, Satan, angel, you can go attack Job. So Saturn is allowing you to be attacked. Attacked by what? Attacked by your shadow. The all is mind, the universe is mental, everything is a mental projection. So if you are seeing something, that is something that you have some level of resonance with. That doesn't mean that what you experience in one lifetime is a reflection of the immensity of who you are. That just means that in this one lifetime, God dictates that it wants you to experience these things, to have these experiences. So in a Saturnine lifetime, elements of your shadow, which is not just the shadow of the mind that exists in your brain, but the shadow of your entire soul, which is itself really the higher mind, the consciousness. Those aspects of those bad images, those bad impressions that you've made on your higher mind, your soul, are creating resonance with things outside of yourself, and is ultimately kind of creating projection, but projection in the sense of that image, which may be an ugly image, an ugly intention, ugly energy that you've cultivated in yourself in previous lifetimes, is now you're sending out a signal to attract the exact same thing to yourself, right? This is the true law of attraction, which is not really something that you mind fuck yourself into believing good things about yourself to bring it back to you. Really, it's you are chosen to have certain activations of those images in different lifetimes so you can experience yourself. So the universe can experience itself subjectively, right? The Saturn 9 is the shadow, right? The sun is the light, the Saturn is the dim, it's the shadow. It's the Jungian shadow. It's the literally all things unwanted and undesirable about yourself you repress into your shadow. And if you go into the Cotrix and you read the description of Saturn, Saturn brings all things unwanted and undesirable, right? Lead is the base metal. It's the unwanted, it's the undesirable. So, yeah, Saturn is all about exposing you to lead, the lead of your soul, right? The undesirable, the ugly, the odious bits, right? The vile-smelling parts of it. And at the same time, in a funny way, I love it. Every time I make one of these videos, the demon gets stirring. Ooh, stay mad. Ooh, you better freak out. Telling the truth about you. The Saturn 9 is negative, and the sun is positive. But the Saturn is only a bad thing if you are only capable of deriving your joy and your pleasure, and really you should say your excitement and your orgasm from the world, because joy is not something you will find in the world. You'll find orgasm in the world, and the sun is orgasmic in that way. But Saturn has the property of negativity, meaning that it deletes things from your surroundings. It allows demons to subtract from your experience, and this allows you to go inward to find joy within, right? We're taking that crutch out. Before you had a crutch, you needed the world to feel something good. And Saturn just comes by whistling, kicks the crutch out from under you. You're on the floor like, oh God, why did you do that to me? But it's to rehabilitate you to go deeply within to the deepest part of your mind. Like in a basic level, it's just like that video is like Rev Zusha, I think I remember his name was. He's been able to find contentment and joy regardless of his external surroundings. But in a deeper sense, Saturn allows us to sever the ties that bind us to the world by making us indifferent to our external surroundings. If we can get rid of that crutch, if we can let go of all of the support that the world gives us, and to the point that what's going on around us doesn't matter at all, and we've been put in this challenging situation that allows us to learn how to find contentment and joy within, and to find God within, to find spirit within, right? The contrast of the world, the material of the world is the spirit within, which is God. Then that's the true gold, right? And ultimately, the real true goal is to find the true God, which is non-dual light. This is another mistake of the Christians. They unknowingly worship this thing external to themselves that promises to give you good things. That's a solar archangel or some other solar spirit. There's a lot of videos about not just astrotheology, but just the history of Christianity. There's so much that ties it back to the sun, but if you need more, maybe it helps to point out that their day of worship is literally on the planetary day of the sun. It's Sunday. That's fool's gold. Is, hey, spirit up there, give me more worldly things that I can enjoy. When I say worldly, I don't mean just like fucking, and I don't mean, even like in an ultimate sense, if you want to stop reincarnating, you really got to let go of the idea of having a romantic partner. Anything that is local to this world that you feel completes you that gives you this misapprehension that you're not already complete, you will come back to this world to have to re-experience it until you finally learn the lesson that you already are complete, right? To be beyond reincarnation is to be beyond duality, right? That's what it means to return to source. That's when the drops were dropped down into this world like water droplets, and to die is to return to the ocean when the droplets rejoin as the ocean. Most people that have the near-death experience is like, no, there's not no me and no you, there's just the all. It's all just oneness. And that's true, except the soul has a hard time integrating into that because there's so much debris in the soul that is worldly and has addictions to the things of the world that is not in resonance with source. So it has to come back down here. It has to wait to come back down here to evolve more and to let go of special attachments to the world. Because once we have become truly indifferent to our external things in the world, and we have dissolved all attachments and all special preference and resolved all fragmentation, then we have dissolved everything that is in the way of unifying all into one. And when you are unified all into one, you are at that point in resonance with source, which is non-dual light. And at that point, there is no further need to reincarnate, and then there is no energetic pull towards reincarnation, because at that point, all of your samskars, all of the images that make up your being, have dissolved into non-dual light. So there's nothing left to bind you to the world. Nothing left to magnetically pull you here. So, it's another reason why a lot of ideas like ritual cleansing, to cleanse away evil. I think I remember watching a video about like, or seeing the title of videos like, Santeria is not about witchcraft, it's about cleansing yourself of evil. And I'm like, okay, sure, but how do you do that? Do you do a ritual, and do you ask a spirit, and do you use particular items like, famously you use like an egg cleansing in Santeria? Is that how you do it? An egg is solar, dude. and even the very act of asking a spirit to remove spirits of negativity from your surroundings, negation, spirits of removal, spirits of deletion, subtraction, right? Negative subtraction. That is by definition solar, because Saturn is subtraction. It is contraction. The sun is expansion. So it could also be Christians being like, God, I have sinned and I am sorry. I am sorry. Can you forgive me? And then give me some more cool shit because I'm sorry. I said I'm sorry. It's like, no, dude, you're doing it wrong. You're saying the right words, but you're doing it wrong. Because you're talking to some other thing. Like you're talking to another character or something. Because your definition of God is screwed up. When talking to God, you're talking to non-dual light, and you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Well, at that point, you're saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, to everything, right, in the world. And that has the true alchemical potential. That is how you work productively with lead. That's how you work productively with demons. That's how you work productively with the negative spirits that are sent your way. This is how you work productively with that Satan. And there's no character named Satan in the Bible. There's only Satan is a job position for angels in the Bible. And that's absolutely true. You can research that. And those angels are Saturnian angels that are given permission by God to harass and remove and cause hardship and strife to the people of the world. And when you are able to view these manifestations of these things happening to you as resonant with you, as parts of your own being, if you have a particular enemy, if you're able to see them as an energetic expression of who you were in previous lifetimes, not all of them, maybe just a season, maybe just a moment, and you just see like, okay, you're a part of my past, you're a part of my history. I did things like you do things at some point in the past. Then to forgive them and to love them indiscriminately is to love and forgive yourself, which is to in a sense kind of like integrate the shadow and to dissolve that samskar into non-dual light. And then there's the other part of it is the virtues, the seven deadly sins and the seven heavenly virtues. Well, I'm sorry that Christians hate so much the idea of astrology, but you're gonna be really butthurt when I have to inform you that the seven deadly sins came directly from a guy who derived it directly from Hellenistic astrology. You didn't find it weird that it was seven? You didn't find it weird that it was seven deadly sins and there's seven, planets? Yeah. The seven deadly sins are basically, you shouldn't think of it as by disobeying these dictates of God, you don't get to go to Sky Disney, right? I was a bad boy, I was a naughty boy, and that's why I can't go to the Disney in the clouds, why I can't go to paradise. That's not really the divine way of thinking about it. Really what it is that every deadly sin in some way relates to a deep marriage to the things of the world. Yeah, it's each one, Actually, I'm just going to read something I wrote to somebody. The seven heavenly virtues aren't about being a good boy on your best behavior and going to Sky Disney. Their opposite deadly sins signify ways that one is married to the things of the world, reinforcing duality. The code name for reinforcing duality is reinforcing cycles of positive and negative. Pride. I am great, and you who have called me not great are actually low and worthless. Disavow and shove your enemies as shadows down into Saturn, that you may experience them again and again, reinforcing the divide, shattering the mirror of God, so that whatever you do, you don't see yourself in it. And lust, how you completely, when I'm with you, I'm whole, as if you weren't whole and everything to begin with. The virtues aren't adherence to a strict father. They're antidote to a sickness that separates one from God. The true divinity, the non-dual light. But if the polarity isn't right, is wasted breath. Some are born with an insatiable appetite for the 10,000 things. Others are tired, as if they've already been seen it all and are pulled back towards unity. In one case, all of this will sound abhorrent or like Chinese. It's the descending soul. To the other, these realizations will be the missing piece of a puzzle that brings everything together. So I got to go up further. Yeah. Ponticus. If you know the name Ponticus, probably is from the seven deadly sins, which you may or may not know are derived directly from Hellenistic astrology. Yeah. Evagrius Ponticus, a 4th century Christian ascetic, initially outlined 8 evil thoughts or temptations which later became known as the Seven Deadly Sins, in his writings drawing inspiration from Hellenistic cosmology and monastic traditions. Okay? Hellenistic astrology. Yeah. What are we talking about? We're talking about lust? Do you really believe that you can find somebody and you can bang around like animals in heat and just ride the wave of that pleasure like a dumb animal, and you think that you're not reinforcing strong roots into the world with the addictive desire to do it again? It's all about addiction. Gluttony, the excesses of the world, the things that you stuff your face with, you know, alcohol, drugs, delicious, decadent food. You know, if you develop those attachments to those things, every time you develop attachments, it's not really hard to figure out. You're developing roots that go into the world. So when you die, you know, you're still attached. You're still attached by the roots. That's what brings you back down here. That's that tree of reincarnation. The tree of life, right? Well, the roots are Malkut, and we're not doing the bullshit where we say that the clip-off is the roots. That's ahistorical. The clip-off is basically the rind or the shells or the peels that are around the fruit on the tree of life. That's what the clip-off is. Really, the root is Malkut, which is manifest physical existence. It's the world. It's the 10,000 things. The Tao Te Ching. It's from the Tao comes to one, the one comes to two, the two comes to three, and then the three from the three comes 10,000 things, all embracing yin and yang. The great fragmentation of the things of the world, the fragmentation of the mirror God. Well, yeah, we're digging our roots in anytime we do that, you know. Pride, like, wow, talk about roots. And if you don't think that's roots, I can insult you and you'll be offended. And that's because you have an ego. And you really can't stop that very easily. I can keep insulting you and you're going to be offended. Because this thing called the ego really digs really super deep roots into your soul and in your higher mind. Everybody says it's like a parasite. Yeah, talk about roots. And that's a really big part of, you know, coming back here is I died, but I wasn't as great as I felt I could be. It's like, okay, but what do you mean by great? You mean you didn't act in a way such that it gave you the level of recognition that you felt that you could have achieved? You didn't become a living legend? You didn't have a legacy? That's a really big part of it. Well, guess who's coming back to try it again? You know, the prideful person who doesn't have any ego is just like, what do you mean legacy? I don't need a legacy. Who cares? You know, you got wrath. It's like, I hate you so much that I'm going to chase you throughout lifetimes to just fucking hurt you. You know? Wrath is another form of attachment. Just like love brings people together, hate brings people together. Believe it or not, it really does. You know, the opposite. You know, they say that expression: the opposite of love is hate. Is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. Big facts. You know, if I hate you, I am directing a lot of emotional energy towards you, and you are really a big part of my mind and what I think about. But indifference, the ability to dissolve, that is what nullifies that. And that's why when I say the Ho'oponopono prayer, the Neptunian practice, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, that's not kiss and make up. We're not kissing. You know? It's like, oh man, we had a big fight, but man, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you, okay? Let's move back in together, man, and then we can go on adventures. It's like, No, you've misconstrued your entire practice. Instead, the importance of this practice that I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank me, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, is directed towards divinity, using every expression outside of yourself as an expression of the one divinity to create a universal love, and basically a 0 point, right? And almost like it's not really truly indifference, but it's like this flowing, non-attached love. It's like, if you don't like me back, I literally do not care, like, at all, right? But I'm still moving in a loving way. I'm still providing. I'm still acting as a living catalyst for evolution back towards God and non-dual light, right? And that's a really deep sense of how to be loving, is as part of our dualistic existence, we view being loving as, I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you money, I'm going to give you opportunities, I'm going to take you out of a bad situation and put you into a good situation, I'm going to put you in luxury. You know what I mean? I'm going to take you from somebody who hates yourself to somebody who has like this glowing, perfect self-esteem. Really worldly idea of love. And understandably, because we are, reincarnated on the world, but really the much deeper love is to be deeply in tune with the ways that God is creating evolution, and to be able to put your consciousness and the eye of your consciousness onto another human being, and to understand what they represent as part of the transmigration of the soul, as part of this journey of evolution, and to see what they need to evolve towards what they were called and put here to do. That's the true deeper love. And that's something that's really hard for people to wrap their head around, because that can involve harshness just as often, if not more often, than kindness and sweetness, right? In the Kabbalah, on the tree of life, we have two pillars. We have the pillar of mercy and the pillar of severity. It's like, well, wait a minute, dude. This is a tree of the emanation of God. So that entire tree is God. So if love is all about being sweet and kind all the time, why does God have this other arm of severity? The planets on that pillar of severity are Saturn, Mars, and Mercury, as the Binah, Geburah, and Had, right? But the point is, very often for God to be truly kind, it has to be cruel. It has to be harsh. And really the ultimate decider on which of those arms to use, either your left arm pillar, like the pillar of severity, or your right arm pillar, or pillar of mercy, that heavily depends on the evolutionary directive of the person that you're looking at, right? This is the Pluto, this is the polarity, and this is the personal daemon. This is the spirit that rules the lifetime of the person, and what it wants to be really loving in a way that God is loving, is to be able to look at a person and see their daemon, is to see the spirit that rules the contract for their life, and to give a nod to the daemon, and then do what's necessary to help that person come into alignment with their evolutionary directive dictated by the spirit, the daemon, the higher self that rules over that person's life. which could be harshness, but it could also be kindness and could be sweetness. But ultimately, it is all based off of what creates evolution for the person towards non-dual light. Evolution towards non-dual light, evolution towards non-attachment to the things of the world, is the only true meaningful evolution in love. But also, understanding everything I just said, it's very important to understand that it's very unlikely that in any person's lifetime you have been appointed to help them completely overcome attachment and vice and duality in this lifetime. Right? In all probability, that's not how you express love to a person. In fact, there's a very small class of people that are ready to have that realization. Some of the people in this soul trap idea say the world's a soul trap because when you die and you're reborn, you lose all your memory. You're like, what was the point of that? You're calling it lessons and you're losing all your memory. You're starting as a blank slate and you're starting from nothing. And I'm like, yeah, that does make sense if you're a descending soul. A descending soul has been given over to demons. They've been given over to demons, so they have a poor memory. You notice that these demonic people of the Kali Yuga that attack you all the time, they attack you and then they forget that they did anything, like with this amnesia. It's because they're so fragmented and they repress so much shit that they literally they can't remember anything. That amnesia is not just a part of their life here, it's a part of their continued reincarnations. They're here to get more and more ignorant. To the point they become an animal and they literally almost have no higher level consciousness at all. But the reason that this is a misguided idea, this soul trap idea, this don't go into the light idea, is that if you are a chosen one, then you do have memory, right? Whenever I speak on these videos, I'm speaking purely from downloads from divinity. But that's just realizations I've had in previous lifetimes, right? It's nothing evidential in anything I've researched. It's just purely like I'm just sitting there one day and then just immediately like massive surge of consciousness and I have a new realization. I do have memory. I'm not starting from scratch. That's the memory of your samskars. But your samskars can be used to make you more ignorant and more like a beast, a dumb beast, like the descending soul of the Kali Yuga. Or you could be a chosen one. You could be an ascending soul, and your samskars are used to awaken and spur greater consciousness. So these awakening souls, or rather reawakening souls, yes, you do have a memory. So I really wouldn't call that a soul trap. I'm not starting with a blank slate every lifetime. I'm having support in the form of downloads from previous lifetimes. So no, my memory is not a blank slate. I can't remember exactly what tangent I got off on here, where I'm going from, but Saturn and its properties of deleting from your surroundings, it's not the way to use these cleansing rituals to get rid of evil. You only do that in order to reduce the difficulty to a manageable degree. These rituals, like in Santeria, they do not exile evil from you, because everything is housed in, I guess you could say, the Akashic records, which is another way of saying your samskars. The images that are housed in your soul, your solar memory, the memory of your soul. And so you can do rituals that essentially act as a form of repression. You're just pushing it back down under the bed where all the other shadows are, but Saturn is going to force you to face your shadows. And you have to, at that point, you have to bring it out, and then you have to exercise love and forgiveness in your shadows that are projected. Where are they projected? As the demons that attack you in the world, the people in the world that attack you. Yeah, that's how you really cleanse yourself of evil, because that evil is a part of you. It's just projected outward. And so if your orientation towards that evil changes, state of love and forgiveness, universal love and forgiveness, then now you're one step closer to non-dual light. Non-dual light is the ultimate state of cleanliness and purity. Yeah, so let's say you get to the true gold. True gold is beyond the cycles. Say, oh, give me more blessings, give me more good things. What are you really asking for? Are you asking for things in the world that feel good, luxuries? You might find that the definitions of these sins might go a little bit further than you think. Yeah, you wanna get to the point of Rev Zisha, I think his name is, in the video, where the external surroundings of the world are completely irrelevant. Anything that life throws you, you have the alchemical ability through love and forgiveness to dissolve it into non-dual light. That is the true successful alchemy. And who knew that alchemy could be so simple? You know? We try to overcomplicate it. Alchemy came from the divine as insight through Hermes Trismegistus, interpreted literally by the people that are worldly. They tried to take this divine wisdom and turn it into, how do we turn physical lead into physical gold so that we can have worldly riches? Wrong. Instead, look at it through the spiritual lens. As within, so without. Instead of focusing on the dynamics of metals in the world, now you can do all kinds of fancy tricks with flasks and fire and distillation and solve et coagula, you know. Why don't we look at that as the state of the soul? And instead of, you know, these like 12 different steps of alchemy, just face the facts that you are doing really deep and powerful and heavy alchemy anytime you are applying Ho'oponopono to the lead that is projected outward as your experience. Anything in the world is your responsibility because it's a projection of your being. And those things do exist. People do exist outside of yourselves, but there are laws of resonance of that projection that bring the exact thing that's within you to you. They're a perfect match. The person out there that's a perfect match for a face that you wore in a previous lifetime. Right? These people that attack you, ugly, disgusting, evil face. Well, you have worn that face in previous lifetimes. So it's time to address that aspect of your past and change your orientation to it. Yeah. Saturn is a bitch. Saturn is a real pain in the ass, and chosen ones know that. Chosen ones know that this trial of Job is quite a pain in the ass in a lot of different ways. And so that's why I have a video on this channel called The Blessing of the Sun, and it's really high-level solar magic that allows you to cast away some of these shadows and reduce the intensity and reduce the challenge of it. But it's never the goal to completely get rid of these shadows. The shadows are there for you to do alchemy on. And if you don't do alchemy, you're going to be back here, reincarnated again, to suffer again. Saturn is trying to teach you alchemy. It is. Really, Pluto's trying to teach you alchemy by exposing you to Saturn. By exposing you to lead, the universe asks, what you gonna do with all that lead? Wow, that lead is really piling up on your back, isn't it? They say Saturn's a heavy planet. Well, lead's pretty heavy too. Pretty dense. At least when it's piling up on you. And so, what you gonna do with all that lead? Are you gonna let it weigh you down and crush you? Or the universe says, are you gonna turn it into gold? True gold. Philosopher's Stone. What's the Philosopher's Stone? Stone that you can apply this stone to any metal and transmute it into a precious metal. Okay? That is code name for anything that life throws you, you can transmute it into divinity, which is non-dual light. Because non-dual light is God. Non-dual light is a mirror. It's the mirror God. Non-dual light. To be able to dissolve the fragments that are thrown at you. Severance. You know, Saturn is the sickle of Cronus. Separates things into moments of time. It's the original author of duality as Binah. You know, that's traditional Kabbalah. And so as part of the descending soul journey, Saturn's a really big part of creating fragmentation. That's why Saturn, you're not wrong when you associate it with demons. Really, Saturn's what controls the demons rather than letting them run amok and be completely chaotic and fuck everything up. Saturn puts it into a logical order. So Saturn, you can definitely say that Saturn is associated with demons and be absolutely correct, because demons are fragmentation. That's why I say that don't think of it as you got the God and you got the devil. If I ever mentioned the devil in any of my videos, I apologize. I misspoke. It's really unhelpful to think of it as the devil, because really the key difference is that God is non-dual unity as non-dual light, and demons are the current that separates things into all these different fragmentations and shatters the mirror. So it's not the devil, it's the 10,000 things. We are Legion. My name is Legion because we are many. That's a really good thing to drive home. Don't think of it as the devil. It's demons, and there's 10,000 of them. And they are Legion because they are many. And so Saturn for the descending soul turns the one into Legion because they are many. Turns it into the 10th. From the Tao comes 1, to the 1 comes 2, from the 2 comes 3, and from the 3 comes 10,000 things, all embrace yin and yang. Well, yeah, Saturn is responsible for severing into different parts, fragmentation. And so that is the descending soul journey. To fragment, shatter that mirror, to give consciousness over to demons, to give consciousness over to this process of shattering and fragmenting. But for the ascending soul, Saturn takes on a very new meaning. It's like, okay, well, now I'm going to expose you to these demons, right, that you've been amassing in yourself, demons that are responsible for creating fragmentation. And now it's an alchemical journey. It's like, now Saturn says, overcome me. Now you have all this lead in your soul. Can you overcome me? It's like, how do I do that? It's like, well, by transmuting my lead into non-dual light. Overcome this cycle, as only an alchemist can. I think that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Doot doot loot doot.